Good morning, everybody. It's David R. Becker here with BeckerArt, and we're here 1 hour, I guess, earlier, right? But we're not. But it doesn't feel like it with daylight savings time. Boy, it's going to get really dark really early this afternoon. Well, welcome, guys, and I want to show you something that I just got from Holbein yesterday. They made some new colors. They just sent me a set of 12 new colors. Let's see. Oh, 1 second. The 12 new colors that are luminous. And so what they are very, very bright colors. And so look at these colors. They're super, super bright and they're kind of almost fluorescent. And so I just got this palette, one of their palettes, and I just put it in there. I'm not sure if I'll be using some of these, but and it's really hard to tell, like in the camera, because I don't think the camera can pick up like the fluorescent kind of looking colors. They will work. I'm gonna try them on black paper sometime this week, and what they are is very, very bright, luminous colors. And I'm interested to try some of these more darker colors. I want to see what those are like. But we even have opera, a luminous opera color. Man, if that was bright enough as it was, I can't imagine what it's going to be, how bright it's going to be. But so that's their new thing, and I'll be testing them this week. And I just wanted to let you know about them. And so, yeah, that's going to be a kind of fun thing. So 12 new colors. And they also are coming out with a bunch of pigmented colors, too. That I think there's even like, I don't know, I forgot how many there are. Is that like 30 of them or something like that? But some new colors, and so that's going to be super, super fun. This side here. But today we're going to be doing a scene that I'm trying to do a little bit more interiors. I've been really getting into interiors lately, and I just want to do like kind of like my favorite artist right now, an oil painter, Simon Pacini. If you look at his work, he does a lot of cafes and inside buildings and outside the buildings and just cafe type of things. And I really like that subject matter. So that's what I'm going to do today. Is I'm going to take this image above right here and just give it a shot. Now it's very low color. It's very monochromatic. I'm just gonna lighten it up a little bit, I think, but I am gonna make a little bit more color to it, even though it's just very, very dull in colors. But we can change that as long as we know what the value pattern is. And the value pattern is very simple here because it's almost black and white as it is. And so really right through here, through the back, the backing is my light. My light up here is all my light. So I'm gonna try to keep that light, even the low keys, and it kind of comes down through here, and then two lights that are on. So basically it's like yin yang, right? With she is going to be lighter with her reflected light on the side, the rim lighting and stuff. So it's going to be kind of neat. It's like a light going right through there. And so that being said, of course, always I do my lights to darks. And so since this is kind of a small area and most of it is dark, I'm just going to take and wet the area and get my light colors in there. And like there's lettering on the menu board. I'm not going to do the lettering. I'm just going to make it a color, light color. And maybe I'm going to make this back here more, I decided maybe to go with a cool color back in the back and then a warm color in the front. And so we'll see how many of you are up this morning. And if you're not, that's fine because you can always come back to it. A couple of people told me they're not going to be up this early, even though we got an extra hour. But so here we go. So I'm just gonna let's see. Let's take my big brush and just get in there with some cool colors. And so maybe I'll try some of these new colors here. So I haven't tried them yet, but maybe I'll just stick them right in here, just in case I need them. Let's see. No, we can't do that. No, we'll try them later. And they're getting away right now. So let's go for some cool colors first, and some, like I'm doing a sky almost, and I'm gonna go with a lot of I think my main color is gonna be orangey red, and I may put this lady in that. So back here, I'm gonna go with a cool color, even though it's not like that in the picture, but I'm gonna keep the background cool, especially way back here. I want to keep it nice and cool. I'm going to keep the light white. I'm going to keep some of this, and some of this menu board I'll keep white. This is my light area, and by doing that, I also will make that look like it's lit up, right? And the lights, like you can go right through these, right through the part right here. You just have to watch out for the whites, the very, very light colors. Well, actually, the light of the paper, the white of the paper, because that'll make it look like it's lit up. Something's lit up, right? And maybe I'll put these bricks back here are warm colored, but that doesn't mean I have to do them that color. I've learned that a lot lately, is that just because the photograph is that way doesn't mean you have to do it that way. I like to use the complementary colors for my advantage, and I like having like cool background, warm foreground. It really, I think, makes it look pretty neat. And it's, I mean, I'm using a lot of grays in this too, which is fine. Using grays is fun. And gray with blue, making a gray is this complement. So you take an orange, put it in there. Actually, take a red orange, not a yellow orange. Otherwise, it makes it green. So this is my brilliant orange, which makes it more red in it. So that makes, see how it makes it brownish gray. If I use my yellow orange, then I'm going to be getting a green because there's more yellow in that. I want to tone this down a little bit with color. Now it's a little bit warm, almost too warm. You know, just, these are my lights, and I just want to get the lights in there now. She is part of my darker face, though, has a part of it is light, so I can go into her hair and stuff like that with my lights, but I cannot go into the face yet because there's a little bit of part of her face that is also in the light. This is very, very tinted. It's not very pigmented. What that means is there's more water than pigment. What I'm using right now, more water than pigment. So let's get it a little bit darker, and because while it's wet, I can also look to see where parts are a little bit darker. Like this wall is really, really dark, but I'm just going to do some of the middle tone, not the super dark part of the wall, the actual color of the wall. I'm looking for some parts that are a little bit darker. It's all wet in the wet, so I can get in there now, and this lamp is actually going to be darker later, and so I'm going to put a little bit dark right now too. I'm getting a little bit of red in this. Makes it kind of purpley. This is going to be really dark up here. So why don't I try to get some of that already now, knowing that this is going to lighten up quite a bit. Also gets rid of my lights, my white of the paper, which is always a problem. It's like you want to get rid of a little bit of the white. That's what scares us a little bit, this watercolorist. That's all going to be darker, but I can just do a little bit of that. I'm keeping this, I'm going to go in there and get some lights in the thing, but I don't want to do that now. I'm just getting the overall right now. The overall lights. Now all this stuff down here that's going to be light, I'm going to make warm now. So I'm going to take some orange and go in there with some orangey brown. And why do I want to do that? Because I want to bring it forward. It's like there's a bunch of warm colors here that are kind of, you know, these products that are light. Her face, parts of her face that are light, like her forehead. I'm going to put a little bit of light in there. His whole face is going to be warm, but it's actually in the darker part, so it'll be darker sticking out. But so it's good to get a little bit of color into this, into the light areas too. And this is more tinted. It's not that much pigment. There's not much pigment in there. So tinting meaning that it's more of a color and not so much pigment resting into the wash. As we get down here, I'm getting warmer. See, I'm going to get some warmth in here. Side of her face is going to be a little bit warmer. Actually, the front of her face is white, so that I can just leave white. Good morning, Maria and Ann. Thanks for stopping by. Sorry for waking up everybody so early, but what I do every Sunday. Okay, this hand is going to be light. This is going to be dark back there. So there's pretty much my lights. My warm foreground, bluish background. And while that's wet, I can still go in there and get my, like some super darks in there. And let's see, I'm going to use my round brush. Or should I wait? Should I wait for it to dry? You know, it's kind of fun doing these because I'm actually just practicing how to do these. And so, you know, I have to think to myself sometimes too, because it's a little bit different than my normal stuff. But you just, when you're doing a different subject matter each time, it's kind of fun to try to figure out your path. Well, thanks, Maria. All right, I'm just trying to think here. Okay, so this is my light area. Let's get in there and just get some more detailed lights in here, just so that it's kind of pretty much done. So I don't have to go back into this area. So I'll make it look like there's some wording and stuff, and I can put some white paint on that too. But right now I'm just going to go in here and try to. And if you notice, I did put a little bit of dark shading in there. I've been doing a lot of that lately, is shading with my pencil, because I find it to be very helpful to know where the darks are going to be, and then I just shade it with my pencil, because I go over it with my pencil then and it looks fine, you know, because then I have an idea of where my darks are going to be, even if they're middle tone darks or light darks, lighter, you know, just light areas that are darker than the white of the paper. And this is some, I know it's like detailed now, but I'm just waiting for it to dry, and so while it's waiting for it to dry, I can get some of this stuff kind of going right now. And I can always go back in there later on too and get more detailed with some of this stuff, if it needs more detailing or not. We'll see. These parts I'm keeping totally white because that's the light coming through. So that I can keep white of the paper. Anytime you want the white of the paper, that's the lightest light you're going to get. So I'm always trying to keep that, and that's where masking fluid comes in handy too. Let's make this really dark right here. And her hair is really dark, so I can go right through her hair. And this then will be a bunch of glasses right here, which are really light. His head will be really dark. Underneath here will be really, really dark, so I don't have to worry about that. Alright, so this lamp is actually going to be lighter than the background, and then this lamp is going to be darker than the background light. See how that works? It's like yin-yang. So that's cool. You know, so this is going to be not that important, so I'm gonna do my foreground here because everything else is wet. So I'm going to go right here now and establish my darkest dark. And when I establish my darkest dark, I'm just going to go with black. I'm just going to take a little bit of black and put some color into it and put some warmth into it. And I'm just going to start right over here in the bottom corner. I'm just going to see how dark I can get. I'm still going to float my pigment, but I need to get it nice and fluid. And then I want to float some pigment in there, so it's not just one color black, and I want to have some warmth in here. I'm going to get granulation, and I'm going to stop at the purse right here. That'll be a soft edge, which is cool. And that seems to be a little bit too light, and so I'm just going to put a little bit more pigment. Use a lot of pigment when you're putting it in the dark. And you notice I did not wet it first. I'm wetting it as I go along. I call that wetting as you go along, and because this is still wet right here, so I get a soft edge, but that's okay. But I don't want to go back over here, so I want to get enough pigment and water so that it's one shot deal. I want to get enough pigment in there that stays nice and dark, controls my edges, because the more pigment I have, the more I can control the edges in a wet wash. It's right up to against here, right against this little plastic tent card. And then once I have it really nice and dark, then I can manipulate things around it. I can just, put in my lighter colors, my warmer colors. I can dump some color in there. Maybe there's a light shining through here, so it's a little bit lighter. And this is my big area of, mediums and darks. It's my step 2. When you don't really have to worry about an area that is kind of in the corner where I want it all dark, that's why I'm doing this area right now, and I don't have to put detail there. But I do want it to be fresh, and I want it to look really like I did one brush stroke and it just set in there and it's really nice, and I'm never going to go back into it after that. And put a little warmth in that area right behind this little card, like the light's shining through it. And then I'm going to go right into these products that are right above it, and because that way they all hang together. They all hang together. You don't have to separate these things so much, and you can just bring them all together. Later on, if you feel something needs to be a little lighter, you can even rub it out a little bit. But the wash making it look like it comes together is one big wash, is a definite plus in watercolor. Like this is going to be a lighter area here. I know this is almost white, this object, but I'm just going to make it lighter than this area, but I'm still going to make it dark. The screen is dark, and that's going to be really dark, and I don't have to do that right yet. Then her shirt, I'm going to go right into her shirt, and well, first I got to do her face, though, because her face is, so I'm going to leave that alone for a second. Her arm in this is all, I'm just going to try to put that together. It can go right into the background, because her shirt will be darker than the background, so let's put a little bit of dark in the background behind her, but not quite as dark as what's in front here, because she'll be darker than this background part right here, which is going to be bricks. See, I don't try to explain what's in this area. Like, I don't want the viewer to actually know what's in there, because it doesn't matter what's in that area. I don't want you to look over here, and so I'm making it soft edge and keeping it undefined, and just do a nice wash there. Do a nice fresh wash. And it goes up to here. It will go into her hair, but right now I'm just going to make it warm. Get some orange and red in there too. And another thing that's going to stick out later on is her face, and so the hair and all that will come together too, but it's going to be darker than what I just put down. So I'm just getting like the bigger parts done first. Always get those bigger parts done first. I always like to work left to right too, because that way I don't have to go back over it. And I may spill something, which I always do. I always spill water on those, and so it's good to go opposite of what you're handed you are. Left-handed or right-handed, go opposite. His shirt is so dark too, and so I'm going to go right into his shirt. If you guys got questions, please let me know. I know there's probably not a lot of you this morning, but in time they'll watch it. Big areas. I'm doing a little bit of this of the products that are down below there, but not that important. And this now is damp, I think. Yeah, it's still a little damp. See, I put my finger in and you see a little dampness to that. So I'm going to slow down here for a second. And let's maybe start doing her top, because that's dry enough. This will be all really dark in there, but then I have to go around. So I don't want to start now if I know that's going to be wet. So let's go into her. Let's see. I want to give her a bright color outfit. instead of just gray. Right now it's just gray, and I want her to be, this area right here to be the center of interest. And so I want to give her a little bit more color to her. And so in her purse, I'm going to keep light because that was first wash. It's not quite, it's almost too light, but that's okay. I'm just going to go with the red. I have to get a few more colors from Holbein. Somebody showed me Pyralon, I think it was called, red. And man, that looked like a really nice red. And to make this, if I want to make that a soft edge, I can do it now by just adding water on this side. I can just add water to this side, or I can do it later and wet it later on to soften it. But I'm just going to put a little bit of water right there. Make it a little bit soft edged. I don't want to kind of go into the white area though, because I want to keep the white a little bit there. Put a little alizarin where it's going to be really dark. Like right here, it's really, really dark. I'm going a negative painting in the strap. And actually, here maybe I can put a little shadow. And her hair is going to be really dark, so I want to get a little bit more of the red, just the pure red in here. Her hair is going to be not red this time because I have to make it dark, really, really dark, so I'm giving her a red top instead of red hair, which I normally do, I know, because I like red hair. But this one, or I like really dark black hair too, so she's going to have really dark black hair, which will work just as well. And then it's opposite of the light right there, so that's going to be really nice looking. And I'm going to get the waves in her top. I'm going to take a really dark red, purple and red and brown. I'm just going to go in here and try to get the front of this, and see how there's some folds in her clothing. So I'm using a little bit more paint, and that gives me the folds. And I'm doing it wet into wet so that they stay soft. And this in the background is also going to be really dark, like it goes back into this area. And a lot of this is all really just dark, and so you don't have to see everything that's happening here, so just keep it really dark. And the strap will be really dark right there. And if I didn't get them exactly perfect, that's okay too. I can wipe out the thing later. I can wipe out the folds in the top. Looks like this is really dark right here. And remember, it's going to get 20% lighter too because it's on white paper, so it's going to dry. It's going to dry a lot lighter. And this purse is way too light now, even though I thought it was, I know it had to be light, but I'll put a wash over that later. Now I think I'm going to work this way around, even though, yeah, it's dry now. Okay, let's just go over to this side now. I'm just going to start this way and go around. Well, you know what? Before we do that, let's go to their faces. Let's get their faces done, because that way I can go around now, because they're lighter than this wall back here. So this guy's face back here is pretty dark. So I'm going to mix up a nice dark flesh tone and kind of just go in here. His hair is black, so that'll be easy. But his flesh tone right here is a little bit lighter than the background, so I'm going to get this in first. Go right into his hair, because his hair is going to be... He's got glasses on, and I'm going to keep some of it white or light so that it looks like there's glass. Big parts first. Get the big parts of his face done first. His forehead is a little bit lighter. that's the outer shape of his face. If I can get some of the darks and lights going now while it's still wet, I use a thick amount of pigment. Because I can control, when it's wet, I can control pigment the thicker it is. And so I can also put in some of his hair, which is really dark, so I'll go with black, some brown, really thick amount of paint in a wet wash, because it'll stick it right there and it won't bleed too far. Do inside his glasses a little bit, make it dark. It's like sculpting, because you're using pigment, and I'm so much into pigment lately that you have to know how much pigment's in your brush and how much pigment's going to be put into the wet wash and how far it's going to bleed. I mean, if it's really wet, it'll bleed really way too far, but if you have it nice and thick, you can regulate how far it goes. Underneath his nose, a little bit of underneath his nose, his bottom lip. Look, this is wet, but then he's kind of blurry in the picture, so I can kind of make it look that way. Here's a little bit darker, his neck is a little bit darker. Later on, I'll put the more fine lines in there for like the glasses and the eyebrow, and you know, so I'll do that later. All right, so that's his face, and now let's go to her face. Now hers is a little bit lighter, so she's farther forward. So with that, I'm gonna go with the dark. Like her hair's gonna be really dark, so I can go into the hair part. Her forehead's very, very light. She's got underneath it, her nose is lit up. Do big parts, like her bottom of her forehead is in shadow, and her face, her nose is lit up on the top, and her whole face down here is not lit up, it's in shadow, and her neck is very dark. So that's what we're going to start out with. Like, this is my light part, and now again you get thick amount of pigment, and if you need to get the water out of your brush, just turn it around and get the water out by tapping it to a towel or a cloth if you have a cloth for yourself. And then I'm just going to go in here, and this is going to be soft edges, and so make sure you have a lot of pigment, no water in your brush. You just need pigment because the water is already down there, and that way you can then just get soft edges, and you can control that edge where you want it. And do remember, it's going to dry 20% lighter, except for the really thick amount of pigment that will stay pretty close. Dark. I can do like the underneath her eye a little bit darker. I'm not going to do her eyebrows and stuff like that because that we'll do later with thin small brush. I'm just getting the big values, like her whole mouth is a little bit darker right here underneath her mouth. I'll put the color on there later. This will be her hair on the side, so I'm going into her hair part, that's fine. Underneath her nose will be darker, her eye will be darker. And again, I'm going to go a little bit farther than the face because the hair will negative paint that. Alright, now his hand real quickly. His hand I can see, so it's going to do the side here a little bit darker. Need the top light. This looks like he's holding something. This will be a copper little pot thing there. His hair will be dark. We'll do that. Okay, let's go now and do our dark area. That's enough for the lights. And let's see. We can do a little bit redder for her. A little bit more orange here, but we can make it a little bit darker. A little bit of an ear right here. All right, ready for the big stuff now. Ready for the big dark that I'm going to put all around here. And that's my composition. Remember, dark's going right through here. Darks are kind of coming through there. I never forget that. I always have to remind myself of the big value pattern that I want to get. And I'm going to make this part down here cool. So I'm going to go with a blue, a dark blue. Starting out really dark blue down here. And I'm kind of going slowly so I can get the shape of her arm and the negative painting of the area. I'm kind of wetting it as I go along. I didn't wet it first, but I'm wetting it with paint. And then I'll pick up other colors too in that wash. And I'll keep on going with it really nice and dark. Like I said, his face is just barely visible on the edge here, so going carefully. There's his glasses. Making it nice and dark. And really there is no rim lighting like that, but I'm just going to keep it like that. So I can always get rid of the rim lighting, but I can't get it back if I want it. So sometimes I'll do stuff just so that I know I got it now, and then later on I'll go back and get rid of it or make more of it. And then her face is very important here to get the edge of her face. That's going to be her hair. And how detailed you want to be is up to you. I'm going to be really dark here. His hair is dark and blends in with the background, so why don't I just do that right now? I'll just put it right in here with his hair. So it blends together. You don't have to see his hair and the wall differ. I really like making sure that you have things that you can see that are kind of blended together. There's going to be a little bit of this lettering. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go through this lettering and then pull it out later on with my brush. Because I don't want to hard edge the lettering back there, because it's soft edge and I want it to stay back. So I'm going to pull it out later on with my brush and just get it back that way. And this area here, I know it's hard edge right now, but I'm going to soften that later. Right now we're just going to go in here. Make it cool. And this light was going to be lighter, so negative paint that. Like I said, this light is going to be lighter, and the roof will be the ceiling will be lighter, but I want that to be soft edge later, so later on I'll soften that edge. But right now I'm just going to go over this way. Use a lot of paint if you want it dark. It has to be a lot of paint because it's going to dry, so make it look way darker than you want it. Way darker, especially in an area like this where it's going to be really dark. You need a lot of pigment. If you don't put a lot of pigment down, it's going to bleed through. It's transparent watercolor, so you're going to see through it. I can put different colors there, and that's fine, but I've got to float it, and I've got to put a lot of pigment in there. And it kind of goes around here to show the bottom. That's going to be lit up a little bit. I'm going to, like I said, this lettering I'm going to rub out, and then her hair is going to be darker than this area, so I want to keep it a little bit lighter right here. A little bit lighter right there. So last night I was watching a bunch of two documentaries of Bob Ross, because this week in my newsletter we're going to be going Bob Ross crazy, and I just came back from a exhibit of Bob Ross' work, and I was very surprised at what I thought of the paintings that Bob Ross had done. And so I watched two documentaries last night. The one was, just the basic one, and the one was where the son, Steve, was talking about how the one lady, Kowalski, kind of took over a lot of this things and selling all the stuff, and he has no right to it anymore after his death. And boy, what a interesting. But seeing his work at the museum, and Dunn Museum in Libertyville, there's a museum right now that has hundreds of his works, And it really surprised me how much I liked some of the works. And I started thinking about it that I had done a lot what he has done because I've done my paint parties, and I was thinking about it that he is basically the first person that started the paint parties because he did those in the malls. I remember when he did those mall classes type of thing. Basically, it was like paint parties. Everybody's doing the same thing, right? So I was like, wow, okay, like Bob Ross was the inventor of the paint party, basically. If you think about it, it was basically he's the one that basically started the whole thing. Very cool. And since I did paint parties for about 10 years, I had done them at the studio in McHenry, and they're starting to start them up again. I'm not going to be doing them, but they're starting them up again up there. And a lady, I think I forgot where she's from, but she's going to be doing some paint parties up there again. So if you're looking for paint parties, you can go back to the studio. But I'm not going to be the one teaching, though. I am not the person that's going to be teaching it. And so I'm doing this light right here only because I'm going to, well, I should make it dark right if I'm going to rub out the paint, if I'm going to rub out the letters. Yeah, let me make it a little bit darker. And I'm making it cool. You notice I'm making a cool purple kind of. I'm going to rub out the letters later. Yeah, the joy, and then I'm kind of doing that now too. I'm kind of like doing his demonstrating, like, I mean, that's all I did for he did it in half an hour. His paintings, mine are usually an hour, but it's kind of like what I'm doing now, right? I mean, I'm doing in kind of on like a video, so it was very interesting. I found it very interesting to watch, and I'm also going to check out a couple of his at the museum. I saw a couple of paintings. I want to see how he did them. So in the museum, they had written down this the which one of the paintings that he did, at what season and which episode that he had done that certain painting. Because I will, in my newsletter this week, we're going to be doing a Bob Ross painting in watercolor, but it should be fun. So see how I got my darks coming in, and I get more and more. I get the big stuff done, and I'm not that worried about, like, the small things yet. Don't worry about the small things. You got to do the big stuff first. Big stuff's got to be done always first. And now this area right here, I wanted to look. I'm going to give it some of the warm. This cool background, but these bricks, I'm going to go in there and tint them. And this is kind of detailed, but I've got my big lights and big darks now done, and so I'm into my middle tones. I'm going to do a little of my middle tones of the large areas, which is going to be this area, which I'm going to kind of bring in here. But I'm going to do it brick by brick. Because sometimes it's fun having the bricks. The brick pattern is kind of a neat look, and so negative painting the grout lines at the same time, making this soft edged and making it look like the light is soft. Make the color of the bricks. And this is kind of tedious and kind of like a end of it, but that's okay because we're at detail stage now anyways. We got the big stuff done, so we're at detail stage, and so I'm just using this, like, step 3 and details. Making this a soft edge a little bit here. Probably should make this a little bit darker on this side. And if this seems to be too detailed, I can also put a wash over that when it's dry. They kind of tone it down a little bit. If it gets too much, like if your eye goes right there with nobody else going anywhere else. Make this a little bit darker. Lead that together. There's a little sign right here, but I'm not going to put that in. And then this is going to be a little bit darker right here. And when I go for my darks, I kind of just go for my darks that are on my palette. you know, because I know I've used that color already, so that's where I just then take the colors of my palette and just keep on going with those colors. Her hair's again going to be really dark, so I can go right into her head. Don't have to worry about that because that's going to be later. Alright, so let's start with her and get it really dark. So I'll go with black again for her hair. And I'll start out with pure black, and it's a hard edge, so I'm just going to go in here and just use water on my brush because there's no water down there, so I need water to make it flow into the, and then I'm going to sculpt it. I'm going to maybe take a little bit of it out, take a little bit of it in, put more in. And I'm being pretty tight with this, but you know, some people are a little bit looser in their style, and you can do that too. I'm just practicing to see what I kind of want to have. Do I want to go looser, tighter? You know, what's my new thing? You know, is there something that I can learn from this? That's why I'm doing these, is I'm trying to learn a little bit of something. And that was a little bit too dark. And her hair goes right into her blouse. So we don't really see that much of a difference. And I do like it when sometimes when I do things and you make mistakes, you make mistakes, and because a lot of times you learn from those. And I was just listening to somebody on, I think it was TikTok or somebody, talking about, oh no, it was on the movie last night. They're saying that if you don't make mistakes, you know, happy accidents, right? That's what one of his things was. Bob Ross's one of his statements was happy accidents, doing happy accidents, and really, and that's when you learn. You really learn from those happy accidents, because if you make a mistake, you learn how to do it right next time. And I didn't realize he had a son that also did the paintings, and they're still doing the paintings, like the paint parties type of thing. He still does those. Here I'm kind of going back into making these lights or these darks a little bit darker and a little bit more pronounced now with edges. So you can see objects. This is lettering on her top saying coffee and stuff, and I'll put that in there. Her hair goes along the side of her face here, and so I'll negative paint the side of her face. And also, like, underneath her chin is really dark. That's her ear. Bring it all down, let that bleed into this area. And I do not mix my blacks. I know if you're new here, I know a lot of people like to mix their blacks. I just take black from my palette. I use a peach black, which is kind of a warmer black, but then I add color when I need color into the area. And I only started doing that because I saw a painting by Wyeth, Jamie Wyeth, that was just solid black, you know, solid black and blue, blueberries in Rockland, Maine. And man, after I saw that, I said, you know what? I gotta start using black, because it was so neat and so amazing, the painting. All right, and so let's see, we go here. Oh, that's a tip jar. I guess there's a tip jar right here. And this part is a little bit dark. Mistakes are essential in learning. I tell that to my preschool art students all the time. We even have a mantra about it. Oh, cool. Yeah, really, you know, it's about, you know, you don't learn if you do something like Steve Ross, his son, said, like, you know, every time you make a mistake, that's another way of learning what to do. If you just make it always, if you're always good and you don't make mistakes, then you're not really learning, you're just doing then. But to learn, it's good to make mistakes, so don't feel bad if you're making mistakes or do things wrong. It's a good thing. It definitely is a good thing. And since we're, it's basically what we're doing is like this, even if this doesn't turn out, this is practice for me. And I'm not looking to do a painting for somebody. This is for me practice. I'm trying to practice to see how I'm going to be doing these interior shots and doing people in incidents where they're like in stores and stuff like that. So this is for me practice. I'm trying to practice what this is. So I'll look at it later too and see what things I did wrong or what I want to change, or did I use colors that I'd never used before? Am I going to try different colors next time? It's all practice. And you have to practice. I mean, that's again, practice. You just can't all of a sudden start painting really good. And I always tell my students too, it's like, if you have like a new brush and stuff, don't do paintings with that brush. Go and take a scrap sheet of paper and work it until you figure out how that brush works. We always want to do great paintings. Yes, we all want to do wonderful paintings, but sometimes if you don't know how to use a tool yet, practice first. Don't just go right in there painting with a new brush or new things and stuff. Practice, practice, practice. But then also, after you practice and you do things wrong, just look at it and have somebody critique it, see what it is that you can make it better, and look at it again down the road. Sometimes I go back to a painting a day later and it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or it's worse now. But usually it's better. Usually you come back and it's like, whoa, okay, I thought it was going to be really bad, or you're tired of it, or you looked at it too long. All right, so we're getting smaller and smaller. See how we just get smaller and smaller with things, and now let's get her hair done. And her hair is going to be really dark, but really black here, you're going to have some highlights of really blue, or you're going to have highlights in the hair when it's really black. So this is behind her ear. And I first put the darkest part I can on. I first put the darkest I can get in there, and then I rub out the blue, the lines that are going to be lighter, or the rim lighting, or I'll put enough water on it so that you can start out light too. A little bit of water, making it, and right on top of her head. If the light is really close to her head, you'd have some rim lighting up here too, even though in the picture there's not any of that, but I'm going to put some in there just because. And then looks like there's a little bit of the light right there. I've learned a lot through working with black paper when it comes to watercolor and the transparency of watercolor compared to gouache. I mean, watercolor can be made into gouache by just using it thick, and opaque. It's because then it doesn't show through. It doesn't show the white of the paper, right? And so that's then basically considered opaque watercolor. It doesn't have the store-bought gouache, but that's what the thing is that watercolor can be either transparent or opaque. If it's opaque, it's called gouache. And people mistake that. They think gouache is a whole different kind of thing. It's not. It's just, it's watercolor in the opaque sense. And there are some watercolors in my palette that are kind of opaque because they have white in them, or they're very light, and if I use it thick, they become opaque, and so they become gouache. All right, so those are the big areas now. Now I'm getting smaller and smaller. This area back here, I'm just going to kind of go in with a light and just kind of dull it down a little bit. I don't know what any of this stuff is back here, so that means I don't want to make it look like something either, because if I don't know what it is, just fake it. Just put in there whatever. It's just some kind of, don't know what it is. Something that you have in a coffee shop. Maybe it's, And if I want to know what it was, I really wouldn't still do it detailed, because I want this to bleed back and not being recognizable. I don't want people to see what this stuff is back here. I just want them to think that, oh, there's some stuff back here. All right. Let's go with my bigger brush. I'm going to start doing this up here, which I do with some cool colors again. So I'll go back to my cool colors, and I'm going to put a little bit of a tone in here, get some details. And also this lamp, I need some of this red up here. And so I'm going to make these lamps copper, which it looks like they are copper kind of colors. So I'm going to go with the red and put it up there, just because I want them to stand out, and get another little bit of red up there. And they're darker than the background up here, so, and if I want to make it shiny, I could also then like leave a little bit of what's underneath there. Again, I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. You know, a lot of times I don't know exactly if it's going to work or not, but you have to do it to try it, and then if it doesn't, then, you know, I'll go back to a cool color if I feel that it's not the same, because I don't know exactly if things are going to work or not sometimes, so you just have to do it, and hopefully it'll work, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I think I need a little bit of reflection in here, so I'm going to make some parts a little bit darker. Let's do the same. Oh, I can't do that. This one isn't wet yet here, so I'm not going to touch that. I'll go back with the blue here and just kind of tone this down a little bit, like it's in shadow a little bit back here. And then this whole area over here, I'm going to tone down a little bit, because we don't need to see that much. And this is going to be a soft edge, so I'm just going to put it right over the wetness. I'm not touching the lamp because I can touch a little bit of it, that's okay. Now let's do a little bit more of the menu board. You can put it a little bit darker in some spots, but I'm going to still keep it blue. I'm not going to do like it is in the picture. And again, I'm not making it exactly like the photo. I'm letting your imagination know that I mean, what else could it be? Your mind knows what it is. I don't have to put down the words menu like it is up there. You could, if you get really tight with it, then yeah, you put that in there. I just want it to be a menu board without actually saying it's a menu board. I'm negative painting some of this stuff, and this all depends on your style too, like how detailed you get, how not detailed you get, how loose you are, and that's all part of your way that you paint. There's a cup of coffee right here, and there's some words over here. That way it also makes the light look brighter when you're going in there and having, like, you know, look at, my lights are too light, they're blowing stuff out of the, see, look at that, it's like now you can see it, a little bit too bright, my lights. Okay, I can't do that right now, we'll do that later. All right, so let's go into our glasses here. In our glasses, we have some glasses. just faking in like glasses and stuff here, and even the lights. These are just tinting now. I'm just tinting it a little bit to make it look like there's something back there. Hurry. Notice that I'm getting close to an hour here. I got 4 minutes left. Uh-oh. We're definitely going to have to go over a little bit here, guys. We're taking a little bit too much time on this one. Now I'm just getting details. Basically, from this point on, it's all details to show what things are, and getting some dimension to the products and stuff, and putting different colors in here. Basically details. That's all I'm doing now is I'm getting in here and getting some of the details of things and getting a lighting situation a little bit better. Down to the really nitty gritty, like on his with glasses and stuff like that, and so I gotta get that done too. Hold on, let's see. Let's go fast here. And a lot of times I also feel like if I need to put white paint in later to get things back light again, that's fine too. I've been doing a lot of that lately because I just find it, I like that look. It kind of gives me the oil painter vibe. Like I can do like oil painting and make things thick. So I'm using my smaller brush now to get some of this dark in here. And hard edge, I'm getting my hard edges now so that you can see what's in front, what's behind. I'm gonna make this lamp also red, even though this is starting to look a little bit, right now it's too light, and so it's gonna be a little bit darker on this part. I'll put a tint over it first, and it has to be lighter in the background though. Remember that, either lighter, and also I do want to get that red color back into the area too. And it is metal, so it's going to be shiny. So you can do that part of it too. Make it shiny. And just drop the little round bit of water right there. I think I have to get this a little bit darker right here to get your eye to come up here a little bit. One last thing here. We're getting very close. I may go over a little bit over an hour, but not much. And when I said about rubbing out some of the lettering here, watch this. Watch how I'm going to rub out this lettering. I'm just going to take water, put it on there. I don't have a stiff brush. I'll take this brush that's not quite as stiff, but it's. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull out some of the paint and make it look like lettering. I'll letter it in the wetness, and so I'll get a soft edge. Because I don't want to put a really hard edge on this, and I want it to be not so contrasty, because I don't want you to see it enough to make it that important. But I do want it to have some lettering in there to look like it's on the wall here. And so in here I also got to put some darker parts in for the lettering too, like negative paint some of it. And then pull out some of the lettering. And I don't want it to be readable. I do not want you to read what it is. I just want it to be enough that you know that this is lettering. And it is the background, so I don't want you to read it enough that it's going to make your eye go there right away. Just enough to give it a look. So I'm just rubbing out and pulling out my, getting rid of the water in my brush. First I have water and then I take it out and then I lift up some of the paint. And I wouldn't want to do it with like white paint on this instant, because I can go back in with a darker color too to get some of the, you know, the negative painting of it too. I can do that too, like go back here and kind of do that kind of thing. Make it look a little bit nicer. But you get the idea. It's just going in and getting the look of soft edge detailing. And I'm putting a little bit harder edge here. I'm going to scrape in the lamp line here, where this part's dark, this part's light. All right, I'm 2 minutes over, but I still want to use my thin brush. I'm going to use my really thin brush to do his glasses and do fine detail, and then eyebrows. And this is going to be thick paint now. I don't want any water in here. I just want it to be thick. His eyebrows in there. Let's have his glasses. Same thing with her. I'm going to put her eyebrows in. Give me a few more minutes and I'll be done. Here, this is some kind of sign in front right here. Fun stuff. I love doing this kind of work, interiors, and it's kind of like a still life with people. This is going to be this. This is a cup. This is going to be your hand, so let's put a little bit of warmth right there. All right, I think that is going to be about it. A little darker right here. I'll work on this lettering a little bit when I'm done here. All right, guys, thanks so much for stopping by on this Thursday. And we'll see you on Sunday, I mean. Thanks for joining me on this Sunday morning, you know, and oh, there's a train. And I will show you next Thursday when we do our paint along. I'm going to see if we can't use some of these colors and when we're doing our Bob Ross type of painting that we're going to be doing next Thursday. And look for my newsletter. If you don't get my newsletter, sign up for it on my website at BeckerArt.net or DavidRBecker.com. All right, have a great rest of the Sunday. And I think it turned out okay. Kind of fun. So, and if you have questions still from this point on, and you want to ask them away in the description now, because the chat will go away. But ask them in the descriptions, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right? See you later. Bye-bye.